Hello and welcome to our complimentary webinar in partnership with CSIA. Welcome Jeremy from CSIA as well. Jeremy, did you want to kick us off with a couple of words?
Well, thanks, Todd. Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Todd, and good morning to all of our speakers that have joined us this morning. CSIA are really delighted and proud to be working with Customer Science on this particular webinar. I'm really excited to learn more about the digital workforce and how to get it started today, and particularly to hear from Doug. So a big welcome to the CSIA members that have joined us this morning, and back over to you, Todd.
Thanks, Jeremy. And thanks for all the good work you and your team do for the industry, the CX industry. It's really important, so well done. So I'm Todd Gorsuch. I'm the CEO of Customer Science, and I'll shortly be kicking off the event in earnest. Before I do, while we're waiting for everyone to join, let's run through some quick housekeeping. Firstly, we'll just be recording the event today, so everybody knows. Secondly, if you have any internet issues or problems, you can jump on with your mobile phone or hotspot. Either way, there's also a passcode there that you can use. Finally, could I ask that you stay on mute until question time? That way we don't have any noise for the speakers. Question time we're all looking forward to, so do think of your answers or questions as you go. We're looking forward to helping answer some of those. Just to throw them into the chat window if you like, or you can raise your hand towards the end using the emoji, or even at the end we'll go off mute and people can just jump in as they'd like. The event is entitled Engage Your Digital Workforce, Getting Your Digital Workforce Started. And we'll run for an hour. During this time, we hope to inspire you with some case studies. Doug is our hero today. He's going to share our case studies from Hunter Water and some of the lessons learnt. We'll also do a couple of sort of quick fire case studies, and I'll just show you the agenda for today. Matt will talk a little bit about what is RPA and how it fits together. And what's sort of driving RPA in the marketplace today? Why are people adopting it? Doug, as I mentioned, do our case study. We'll also do some really rapid fire case studies to just show you some of the unusual ways customers are starting to use the digital workforce. Michael will talk about the market, what's changing, and also some of the innovations that are coming to market through leading technologies, Automation Anywhere being one of those. And I'll give you a bit of a frame of, once you learn all that information, how you could potentially get started using some of our learnings over the years and explore through Q&A. The Q&A session we'll leave a bit of time for at the end, so we'll have approximately 10-15 minutes. We'll try and keep the rest of the presentations succinct to allow for that. And yeah, as I mentioned before, just drop your questions into the chat as you go. So to kick us off, I'd like to introduce us to the very first speaker, Matt Green. He's our digital intelligent automation expert from Customer Science and leads that practice. Matt joins us after about 15 years experience in this particular space, which is pretty exciting for us. He's spent time in Europe and delivered over $1 billion worth of science savings through that process. So he's got some really great insights that I hope you'll ask him some questions towards the end as well. So over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Todd. Morning all, hope everyone's well. I'm going to walk you through what the digital workforce is and more particularly what RPA is. So the digital workforce effectively is a whole suite of tools. You can see it on the left hand side of the slide here. That encompasses lots of software that actually is aimed to make our lives easier. You know, process mining is one of them, process mining / task mining. Task mining effectively is something that we can use to identify our processes and all the variances in them. Historically, it's been done by business analysts. Task mining is built into RPA nowadays, and it actually helps you to identify the solutions that you can build and automate, and gives you that full sort of like BA journey, but without the need for BAs. Then the other one that's on everyone's tongue all the time is artificial intelligence. You know, this is what allows software to think and make decisions. You know, there's some great use cases around this, from mapping of human brain and how it works, all the way through to throwing a load of important data at it and letting the computer identify what are the where's it going? The preemptive analytics, effectively. So artificial intelligence, it's one of these fantastic things that it's still up and coming. There's no general artificial intelligence yet, so it's quite limited in scope of what it can do at the moment. But what we're going to be focusing on today is the robotic process automation part of the entire suite. This is this place where machines can actually mimic what humans do, and thus remove some menial tasks that take up your human workforce. So what is RPA? It's effectively robotic process automation. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It mimics a human. Anything that can be process mapped, then we can actually automate it through software. So if you've got lots of different bits of software in your business, and your agents are having to go across 3 or 4 bits of software to actually get to the information that they need to give to your clients, then what we can do is, instead of wasting your guys' time doing that, we can actually have software robotics going and doing it for them. So in terms of what it is, as I say, it mimics a human. Now, where does it fit and why is it used? I think the best way to answer this question is to actually look at what's driving RPA. So if we can move to the next slide, please, Todd. The main drivers that we're seeing in RPA, there's 3 of them really. The first one is lowering access people in the workforce. So there's less experienced people out there that can get our hands on easily. We've also now proven RPA. It's been around for over 15 years. If you look down in the bottom right hand side of the screen, you'll see the hype curve from Gartner. You can see that RPA is just coming out of the disillusionment stage. So that's where everyone thinks it can do everything, and people are actually understanding what it can do now and what it does really well. And last of all, it's very much high demand. So all the organizations that we work with are being targeted on this sort of stuff. There's a nice bit of research that was done by Gartner that showed that it was the second priority for CFOs in most businesses to actually bring this in to bring benefit into the business, to be honest. So if we look at the actual industry as a whole, where is it? It's been around 15 years, as I say, and if you look at the top 5 companies, the valuation of those companies is in excess of 50 billion. If you look at the top right-hand corner of the slide here, what you can see is it's had steady growth over the last 6 years, and the next sort of 5 years onwards are going to be going insane. And I think that's where the 50 billion valuation on these top 5 companies come from. Why is it so big? Let's look into this in a bit more detail. There's a really nice study that came out by MIT last week that showed, it's called Demographics and Automation, and it showed that automation is more widely adopted where the population is becoming older. And that it's also driven by labour shortages. So this is just a fantastic representation, especially of what's happening here in Australia. You can see that we've currently got a 4.5% unemployment rate, and that's dropping. So it's becoming a lot harder to actually find the people. Once you find the people, that's great. And if you've had people a long time that are doing you a good job, chances are that a quarter of those people are probably looking to move jobs. So this is one of the main drivers behind RPA, because you can bring it in to get rid of those easy and simple tasks and focus your humans on what they actually enjoy doing. You've also got to take into account the impact that COVID had on us. So COVID, all of a sudden, our workforce disappeared. Nobody was in the office. Companies didn't necessarily have access to easy solutions to allow them people to work from home. So there's a lot of work around how do companies actually enable that, and that's where the remote access companies, all of a sudden their profits went through the roof. It's a very similar story of automation, because the second tick in the box for companies was, okay, we've given people access, now how do we actually maximize the efficiency of those people? And that's where automation came in. So yeah, main driver is getting the people, keeping the people. The other one, proven benefits. I'm not going to wax lyrical on this one. There's hundreds of use cases, thousands to be honest, out there, with companies showing billions and millions of savings. But one of the main drivers here is that people are actually looking for the ability to scale now while keeping the cost flat. They want to improve the compliance and governance and reduce the risk. And they are the main sort of reasons that we see people adopting RPA now, is the reducing that risk, improving the compliance, and keeping getting that ability to scale. They're the main reasons. And I think that sort of gives an idea of what the main driving factors are behind RPA. It's no longer about just cutting the cost and doing what you can do. It's about improving experience. It's about improving governance, improving control, and making sure your company's going to be safe moving forwards. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask you all a quick question. We're going to do a quick poll. Todd, if we can move to the next slide. So the question is going to be, where are you on your RPA journey? It'll pop up in your chat window. So at the top of your screen, you'll see a little chat bubble. If you just want to click on that, you can get into it there, but it should also pop up on your screen as well. If you want to select your answer, feel free. And while you're all doing that, I'll just talk a little bit about it. So what I'm seeing in Australia is that RPA is not as widely adopted here as it is in the likes of Europe and the Americas, which is where I spent most of my past. You know, there's a slide that we used to show that showed the stages of RPA. So sort of 5 being the pinnacle where you are fully automated, you've got AI and what have you. But in reality, what we're seeing down here is most people don't even know what RPA is yet, and are sort of investigating as to what it is and how they can use it. This means a lot of people are actually moving into that investigating and piloting stage at the moment, which is, oh, we're not really sure about this, not really sure about what it does. We want to find out a little bit more. So that's where the investigating and pilot stage comes in. We can come into a quick use case and a quick example to show you how quickly this stuff embeds. You know, it's a couple of weeks. It's got a low cost of entry as well. And then from that on, that's where sort of like the ball drops for most people, and where you get the snowball effect. Because once you have one bot in, somebody sees it and they want a bot and they want a bot. And Doug will probably talk a little bit more about this in his part, but it's what most journeys look like. You do have at the opposite end of the journeys where people say, oh, actually, we fully understand this. We know what it's about. And this is what's happening in Americas and Europe. We fully understand it. We know what it's about. We're going to start strategically and we're going to go straight to production and straight to scaling. So that's where you've actually got that ball rolling. You already have in your mind what the vision is going to be like. So what your structure is going to look like, what your controls that you need are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into what each of these stages are. And with that, it looks like we've got most of the results in. So Todd, I shall pass back to yourself.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Matt. That's awesome. I will close the poll. So everybody should be able to see the results now. There probably are not a great deal of surprises here, to be honest. This is pretty typical of the environment we're in, where the majority of people are still, you know, either not using it all or investigating. There are obviously a number of people in pilot phases. We're seeing those be more skunk work kind of phase at the moment. There's a few people doing a really good job in there, and production. And then the maturity one, we really see the big organisations probably taking on the maturity and scale part. So thank you, everybody. And some people stalling and failing. We're definitely seeing a few of those in our travels. So yeah, that's fantastic. We'll move now to the hero of the show, Doug, to talk about his case study. Doug, over to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Todd, and thanks, Matt. Look, I really appreciate the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you today about our experience with robotic process automation. I work for Hunter Water. We're a regional water authority. We're located in Newcastle in New South Wales. We provide water and sewer services to people in Newcastle and the Lower Hunter area, about 600,000 people. So Matt, sorry, Todd, would you go to the next slide? That'd be great. I just wanted to share where we've come from, and this is probably not uncommon to many of you. You know, we have within our business a lot of routine and repetitive processes that take up a lot of people's time. And we'd like to be able to move those people away from doing those routine tasks, obviously, to more value-add tasks. So as an organisation, I think we've grown up building assets to solve problems for our community. And we've realised now, as we've moved into a new era, that, you know, really a lot of what our role is, particularly even within the environment that we work as an organisation, is now about building relationships, and particularly with our customers and community. And so RPA for us is fulfilling a need as part of a broader strategy for Hunter Water. In addition to that, we needed to build trust and confidence in...
Sorry, Doug.
That's okay, no worries. We needed to build trust and confidence in this technology, as you can imagine. And so that has been a challenge within a challenge. But from our perspective, you know, we've been lucky to work with a really good partner that's worked closely with us to implement quickly and to listen to our people as we develop these processes and to make them work for us. So that's helped us as, make this a success for the business moving forward. And I just wanted to share with you just some of the outcomes, obviously, and I'm just setting the scene here. RPA has provided improved accuracy for us. We've certainly been able to relocate our people now to more important functions within the business. Also, it's future-proofing the business as well, because as we said before, it's important to have a solid and reliable workforce, and this now forms part of our digital workforce. We have efficiency gains, and we're able to also improve turnaround times for our customers, for improved standards for our customers. So I might just go to the next slide. So this is just to share with you that really RPA for us has formed part of a larger roadmap of activities where we want to build capability within the business in terms of our Voice of Customer program. And so at the moment, RPA has formed part of a number of pilots, Voice of Customer pilots across our business to build our skills and capabilities. Also, it's helping us to get more data about our customer interactions and be able to manage those more effectively. It's certainly helping to embed new ways of working within our business, and ultimately it will become an integrated part of our processes and our practices as a business. So I just wanted to share this slide to show you that it's really, from our perspective, part of a broader solution for us in delivering these services to our customers. So I wanted to just now share with you some of our experiences with robotic process automation. As an organisation, and we started small, my feeling particularly was that I didn't want to launch into something that was a really complex process, that was something that, potentially would be fraught with issues to resolve. I wanted to keep it simple and to build our skills and to scale up. And that's certainly how we've started the process. So, for example, two of the processes we're just about to put into production. One is liquid trade waste docketing for our tankers that come to our treatment plants. That process is being automated, and also updates from our website for customer contact details into our billing system. So that process is being automated at the moment as well. And so we keep them simple. And this is part two of a program within our business of us building digital capability across our systems. So we have, over the last 3 or 4 years as a business, actively gone about building that digital capability, upgrading our website, making sure that any processes we can engage electronic processes to help us be more efficient, and also to remove what I would call back-end processing dissonance for our people. And again, this forms part of that strategy. And there are in this a lot of other benefits other than just cost savings. So it provides scalability for our business, obviously. RPA processes 24/7. So that's certainly important from our perspective. As I said before, it certainly removes, from our perspective, back-end dissonance. It allows our people to focus on things that matter. It's certainly part of a broader continuous improvement strategy, and it provides improved accuracy in the way that we process things. So there's a lot of benefit other than just cost from RPA. So here are some of the lessons learned from our perspective as an organisation. And I said before, we wanted to start small. We wanted to create value. We wanted to build, if you like, confidence in this technology so that people saw it as a friend within the business, something that would support them, and we can avoid widening within the business. So that's certainly one lesson. Start small, build up, build your capability. Know your processes. We made sure that as we were developing these processes, that we had skilled subject matter experts that already knew these processes well. And so when you're working, I know this sounds fundamental and fairly basic, but it's so important that you need to understand the end-to-end process well before you start changing it. So it's good to have experienced SMEs involved in the process who know exactly what they're looking for and what they want to see out of this process. The other thing too is it needs to be driven by the business. And so from my perspective, I work within the business, and this change has been driven rather than from our IT group or as I've said here, as a digital desire. It needs to be something that will fulfill a business need and is driven by the business. I think we've also got to remember with this technology that it's just not set and forget. You can't just create a bot and let it go and then just forget about it. You've got to constantly maintain because we have changed the process, we have changed the systems. We need to make sure that we're maintaining it as we would any process with any business. So that's important that, that we build that into our program of works going forward. The next lesson from my perspective is responsive development. I really see RPA development as being an agile process. We need to be listening to the people in the business. We need to be listening to what they're saying about this, and we need to be making changes along the way to meet their needs and requirements. So we start obviously with a process map that we want to achieve, but we've got to recognise along the way that at times we might need to change that. We might need to change our direction a little bit to make sure that we meet the requirements of the business. So this is truly agile in terms of development. And I think that, by the way, is one of the strengths of this technology. And as you work with a value partner, look, we worked with customer science and found them to be very responsive to this change, to work with us in this change and to work quickly in this change. That's so important to have that confidence and trust in the partner that you work with as well. And ultimately, I think we need to recognise that this is a change process, that people are involved, that people's jobs are being affected, and that we need to take that into account. So we need to, while the technology is clever and while it can deliver a lot of things, ultimately we need to consider this is about people and it's how it works for them. So I guess there's some of the lessons we've learned in the process. From our perspective, as Matt had indicated earlier, we've started out with a few processes that have worked well for us. We now have people queuing up and saying, you know, we think there's an opportunity here for RPA. We think there's an opportunity. And so, you know, that 2 or 3 have now worked into maybe 30 that we need to look at over time and build into a program of works. So certainly there is there's opportunity in this space, but in line with, I guess, the lessons that I've outlined. So thanks, Todd. I'll turn back to you.
Thanks, Doug. And I really was impressed with the strategy vision that you've painted for Underwater, and congratulations because you've made a massive difference. So a really impressive CX strategy. So, and this being part of it. So well done, congratulations, and thanks very much. We're just going to now talk about a couple of snapshot case studies quickly. Those snapshots are existing clients of ours that will just give you a sense of the variety of ways that RPA is now in use. And I might hand over to you, Matt, to do the first one.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So this is one that we had a look at with Community Options Australia. Effectively, it was using a very manual process, My Aged Care portal. They had to log into, there's 3 different systems, sorry, where they had to do a process which was basically manual lifting and shifting of data from one system to another. Very manually intensive, tight deadlines as well. The SLAs, they had to have it all done by 12. Quite frequently, they went over the SLAs, they breached it, which causes a little bit of issues with the Department of Health who regulates it. So they identified that, hey, they wanted this process automated. Within 2 weeks, we'd been in there, we had identified what the process is, mapped it all out, spoke to the stakeholders and come to an agreement on the to-be process. And then that was all in place and delivered and live within that 2-week timeline. So from start to finish, very, very quick. You know, POCs we do for sort of 15 to 20K, depends on what the process is, to be honest. But it delivered that benefit instantly for them and effectively saves them, I think it's just over 80K a year. So 2 weeks to have an 80k substantiated save. As you can see from the benefits section, 80% time reduction, accuracy was increased, the SLAs were met, and they also have the ability to scale moving forward because it is a very fast growing company. As the population increases in age, going back to the original slides, as the population increases in age, so does aged care. So they're very happy with it, and they're looking to add different processes at the moment as it stands. Back to you, Todd.
Everyone, thanks, Matt. Just like to share one from the Australian government, the Australian Digital Health Agency. They had a real challenge when they were opting out of digital health records, where there's a massive spike in volume required to handle the inbound inquiries that were coming in. The spike was about 100 times the original volume of calls that they used to get. When they first tried to do this in a November timeframe, their phone systems melted down. They had not enough staff, etc. So they really need to do something about it. In original forecasting, it was about 500 FTE increase to try and meet this spike demand. So we went about building an approach. There's really 3 phases to that approach for them. Obviously, we provide additional people, but we also provided a process improvement, which reduced handle time, and we provided the automation. And we'll just have a quick look at what that automation did and why I like this. And Michael will talk a bit more about some of these things as well. But, you know, a customer could now, when they called through, they could get automation through the IVR. They could put their own information in that was collected or put through to a callback system. It was then triggered towards a HTML page which popped up, allowed them to see the information the customer entered in, and also allowed us to push a button to execute the transaction, which was to opt out of a digital health record. And it then went back to several systems and updated those systems, or if it couldn't update those systems, came back and let the agent know. So the agent was then able to make changes or click a new button that said, let's delete that record altogether, as opposed to just opt out of the record. So it becomes a more intelligent solution, I guess, working across multiple systems. And it really works as this sort of support to an agent. The agent still has to do verification and other steps, but it dramatically reduced the handle time for an agent by about 30%. So the key benefits, this was a really urgent solution because the government had made a commitment around timelines. So we had to roll this solution out within 6 weeks, which also put pressure on recruitment and as well as deploying the solutions. So that's where other technology solutions just couldn't be put into place because it just took too long. There's quite tight security requirements around this as well. So there was a real requirement to get it going. In the end, the benefits that were realized over those 6 weeks were a 35% reduction in workload, 30% reduction in capacity. So we didn't get the complete capacity benefit that the workload was reduced. So that's a sort of a lesson learned as you go. Millions of dollars saved for taxpayers because we didn't have to employ all those people. There weren't any customer complaints or bad press as a result of the improvements that were made. And the good news for the government was they've now got a sustainable platform, so they can build on their digital workforce. RPA is the start of that, but they're now introducing other technologies, chat solutions and other things to then grow upon the base of that solution. So, and they met all their timelines, which was important. The third and final one the last one was about scale. Matt's was about productivity, and this last one's around proactive service. What I really like about this one is this is a service that just couldn't have been done without robotics because it's just too cost prohibitive. And this is a service where in aged care, sorry, it's aged care. This is where a carer will go to a site to assist a person on a regular basis so they can stay in their home longer and not have to be in aged hospice or some other location. That activity of going to the site, if somebody doesn't arrive on time, it generates a whole heap of call volume into the call center. And what happens is sort of the journey you see here where the customer recognizes there's an issue. They go and search for contact information. So they're already getting agitated. They then go to call the contact center to resolve the inquiry. The call center then has to manage the inquiry and go and update the client, go through escalations if required. So a whole bunch of work is required. The clever thing here is if the person doesn't turn up, there's a robot that's actually sitting at the front end of the process, and the robot is checking the database to check whether that person has arrived on time or has made sure that they're on their way as well. And if they're not, then it takes action. And I'm just showing you here an illustration of all the strikeouts that were removed as a consequence of this robot that could then take action. It could notify the customer, it can notify the call center, it can start escalating. It doesn't do it in isolation again, it still uses people, but it actually does a lot of the workload in the background. It even starts to reschedule staff or notify that they're going to be 5 minutes late so the call never arrives into the call center. So quite a good proactive use of robotics, and ultimately it created better care for those people who are in their homes, removes a lot of anxiety and other issues associated with it. So the benefit for Anglicare was 1 FTE saving out of their 35 staff. They had a 75% handle time reduction for those particular transaction types because often they didn't even arrive. They reduced their abandonment rate by 8%, which was huge for them because they were in their mid-20s and dropped down to a more reasonable level. Able to answer more calls. WHS on their own view was that they could really make it a safer environment, find out if people were not making it on time or the person who was being cared for was going to be cared for on time. And again, they wound up with both a safer environment and a platform that they could work off as a benefit. So they're our snapshot. And we've got a poll now that I'll just get going for you. This poll is designed to give you a chance and us to share where you think the opportunity is in your organization for a solution like this. And we sort of pulled out those key areas. I'm just launching it now for everybody. And you can select multiple options in this list. You know, for you, is it a repetitive task? Are you seeing, you know, proactive service opportunities in your environment that you could actually make a difference with automation? Or could you improve customer experience through more timely response to a customer 24/7, like Doug described? Or even scale to enable processes so you can scale up and down like we saw with ADHA, or compliance and accuracy is really important to you, and there's an opportunity in that space. So yeah, just a quick check on that. We'll give people a couple of minutes. You can see the responses coming through. It's a very interesting set of responses, actually. Just give you one more minute, and then I think we'll close the poll so you can see the results. Great. Okay, we're just closing the poll now. And hopefully you can see that there. It'll be in your chat window if you can't see it. But very interesting. So the majority, again, tasks and customer experience process. That responsiveness and productivity one, definitely Hunter Water, and the one Matt showed, it's the logical place most people start. And interestingly, compliance is not far behind, but compliance is the one that people often call out once the robot's been deployed as being the higher benefit to them. So some really good results there, and interesting. So thank you everybody for participating in that one. Our next speaker, Michael, will be talking from Automation Anywhere, and Michael looks after the ANZ region for Automation Anywhere. I'm really interested in this one, actually, Michael, because some really great research that's been done independently here. So I'll hand over to you. Oh, you're on mute.
Let me go off mute. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good morning. Look, thanks for having me, giving me the opportunity to present today. I really appreciate it. But in order to frame the conversation around what we're seeing in the market and the future of automation, I wanted to share some perspectives from an automation industry survey we commissioned with an independent firm, ETR, earlier this year. So we had over 400 CIOs and business executives participate in the survey from a mix of 500 Fortune 500 companies and small to medium-sized businesses across 9 different industry verticals. And the report includes a broad range of survey results as well as supplemental insights from Automation Anywhere, really just referencing our thoughts on how we're continuing to innovate within our automation platform to support market demands. So, God, if you could just move to the next slide. I thought, so what are some of the key trends and opportunities for business leaders? So clearly most large enterprises are already using automation. The trick for them is getting more bots from more departments into production to really compound the productivity improvements they're seeing in the business. So in simplistic terms, they're looking to scale bot velocity and deliver more efficiently. The second point is that leading organizations that are ahead of the curve are expanding to multiple departments, and they're using subject matter experts to build their own bots. So this really helps alleviate the bandwidth issues that COEs typically face while expanding the number of bots into deployment. So AA spent a lot of time building what we would call citizen development into A360. A360 is our cloud native automation platform. So the focus is really about making the platform really simple to use for business users. So if the COE decides that suggested use cases proposed by the business are appropriate and they're relatively easy to deploy, citizen developers can then build them out within a defined governance model quickly without relying on the COE and IT and developers to build those particular bots. So the value to customers is really about increasing the velocity of bots that are reduced cost and compounding the ROI that customers can achieve in the business. The second opportunity we're seeing is how organizations are really exploring new ways of using bots to augment their workers. So users triggering bots themselves in real-time situations to augment their efforts, whether the bots would pick up the manual repetitive tasks that impact productivity and when they're facilitating specific processes. So if this isn't familiar to you, think of like Siri or Google Assistant in the office. So automation can also be used in the same context where we provide digital assistance at work, and we're seeing huge growth in this area of human bot collaboration with a product we call ARI, which is Automation Anywhere's robotic interface. So Todd, if you could just move to the next slide. So if we try and paint a picture here, if we look at a traditional workflow for a business user, when they receive an inbound request, it usually requires them to navigate through multiple applications to look up information and service the task at hand. But each of those processes can easily involve numerous applications, sort of ranging from legacy applications, custom builds, or common SaaS solutions that we all use every day in business. But because the business user needs to manually look up the data and update the systems, process documents, notify other stakeholders, this results in a real kind of swivel chair approach that really impacts productivity and decreases efficiency. Not only that, but it also increases the risk of errors. So if you then think about adding a customer into the mix, resolution times become even more critical for front office employees. So not only do they need to meet SLAs, but they've actually got to actively engage the customer during that process to ensure high levels of customer satisfaction are met. So if we look at, I might show you a simple example now, just illustrated by a video. So if you could kick that off. So the video shows how users can drastically increase productivity using ARI within Salesforce.com. So here the employee can collect and deliver the information they need using ARI without even leaving the application, whereby so the value is really they're able to eliminate time switching between applications, increase their productivity, and I guess reduce errors in the process. So here's how easy it is to use bots in the order creation process. In this situation, a customer calls to place an order and the service agent is assisting them. The agent enters the order details, and then once they've entered in all the order details in Salesforce.com, a bot can be triggered, and that bot will send the data directly to SAP. SAP then gets updated automatically, as you can see here, and the bot returns the order ID to Salesforce.com. No more steps are required. A notification will then alert the agent that the record's been updated and the order details from SAP are imported directly into Salesforce. So in this example, we can clearly see how that human bot collaboration using ARI as a digital assistant it clearly improves customer experience by reducing wait times and improved collaboration with the knowledge worker. There's less training required for new employees and more time to allow them to collaborate freely with customers. So I might now, okay, if you just move onto the next slide. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. So might now just focus on some of the results from the automation survey. Clearly, of all the customers that we surveyed, over 95% already started the journey. I think of 28% of those surveyed had actually in the process of evaluating, but a staggering 67% had already kicked off and were actively looking at growth within the business. And we can see from results as well, if we keep going to the next slide, Todd. If you look across the different departments, we can see that the use cases are also prevalent from front office right through to back office. So the depth and breadth of use cases that we're seeing within our customer base is expanding all the time. And as the technology evolves as well, the opportunities for automation are expanding weekly. So I'll just focus on some of if you just go on to the next slide, Todd, I'll just reference. So what we saw from the report is of the customers that had already started their journeys, 56% will invest more in the year ahead. And in fact, the average ROI recorded by customers was 250%. So typically that delivered greater productivity in the business, allowing them to deliver business services more efficiently. But it really also allowed them to deliver their employees to focus on the things that employees do really well and deliver higher value work for their employees. I think the customers, if you just go to the next slide, Todd, the customers really at the leading edge of automation, they were achieving ROI of up to 380%. And they're starting to increase their investment by incorporating AI and machine learning over the next 12 months. But the focus still really remains on productivity in the business and, freeing up time, allowing more employees to focus on higher value activities that they're not only more fulfilling for the employees themselves, but they're delivering more value to the business and operations. So I think from my perspective, that's really the key takeaways are from the survey results. We can see that, 67% of the respondents are actively expanding their RPA footprint, which clearly highlights the value of RPA and intelligent automation. We're also seeing a significant trend for citizen development. So mature customers that are looking to accelerate deployments, they're starting to make it more accessible to business users and SMEs so they can accelerate that deployment. but I think that's really from myself, Todd. That's all I'd really cover today.
Thanks.
Happy to cover off any questions at the end.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Michael. I really like the fact that you're dealing at often the mature end of the market. So it's really nice to see, you know, as people mature, what kind of benefits they're likely to get. Also, the latest technology with ARI that really is like a support to an agent or a person on a call or person who's delivering service. So it's really your personal assistant. So it's just some really nice examples of what's being invested in by the large technology firms who are focused in this area, best of breed. So thanks, Michael, appreciate that. The next thing is just around, okay, so we know all this information, but then how do you get started? And I thought I'd just give you a bit of a view of how we've been doing this with our clients. Now, you can do this on your own as well. So this is just a methodology we've been applying and getting better and better at over time. And really the principle of RPA is we're lucky because it is a low risk kind of startup. You can start with a very low investment up front, which Doug was talking about, low investment in terms of time as well. And then you get these guaranteed performance points where you can check in and see that the actual solution's working, and you can stop at those points. So you've got this control where you can stop and go if you need to. And then finally, as you're doing that sort of stuff, you'll realize that there's various models out there. So you can do managed service models, which means you can take all that pain away and give it to a supplier, or you could simply build your own practice internally and be build and train, or you can do a blended model of each. So there's some really neat models that can be built to support organizations today. And the typical methodology we use is this one that sort of works around these 6 steps, starting with, you know, just qualifying, is it really right for you? Within a couple of days to do a proper assessment that just understands the fit into your business, because sometimes it won't fit. And sometimes it will, and it'll be really valuable, and there's means of making that happen. Then as that happens, within a week, for a very simple process, you'd be able to get up and running with a proof of concept. Often it's a little bit longer depending on how many and exactly what you want to do. And then from there, you can move into design build. Within a month, you'd potentially have a solution in place. And I like the idea of stopping at stage 5 and just checking in to make sure you've got the right solution, and that you've got the benefits that you wanted to realize. Plus, you can start to then plan out your roadmap carefully before you start going too far. Then you're into managed zones, so you can start building out your center of excellence that Michael was talking about, and others. So, and then you essentially revert back with that list of opportunities and work your way back through that same process. And the final part really is our final poll for today, which is designed to give you, you know, next steps for your digital. Again, you can choose whichever ones you want. What's the next stage for your digital workforce exploration? Where are you at today? Ready to go? Do you need more information and questions answered? Are you trying to determine if it's really relevant or it's not relevant for you? Qualify the benefits, understanding the costs, you know, what is this going to cost us? Assessing my organization's maturity and risks, you know, should we embark on this? Or no action right now, you know, you're in a space where, you know, you may not need it. Maybe you're a solo consultant where you're just trying to learn and help others. So there you go. Give people just a minute or so, and then that will leave us some good time for Q&A. Might even support a bit of our Q&A. Just give you a couple more minutes. Perhaps not a couple more minutes, seconds. We'll get some numbers in there. And whilst people are finalising that, we do have an offer for those people who are on this webinar. It's designed to help you with those next steps. So obviously we're grateful for you attending and showing interest. And hopefully this just gives you a kickstart to your to get you started. And these are often obstacles we see with some of our clients, just wanting to know, are they ready? Make sure we've got a plan in place, or okay, if we're going to embark on this service, there's a discount there because you guys have got started in this session, so you're across what's going on. I'll just close this poll, and you'll see there's hopefully you'll be able to see that we've got quite a mix of results in there. Most people are really just trying to determine the relevance for the organisation. What are our benefits, and what does this really cost? So, okay, great, we've got an ROI, which has been discussed, but what does it actually cost to get going? So we might be able to answer that question in the Q&A section in a second. Which we're at right now. So we've left just over 9 minutes to do Q&A. I'd encourage people to either put your hand up, add something in the questions field, or just speak out loud if you've got a specific question. To kick us off, I might leverage one of those questions that came out from the poll. Understanding the cost, maybe Matt, you could give us a bit of a sense of cost to deploy.
Yeah, sure, no worries. I think if we take Doug's advice as gospel, which is when you're starting out, identify something that's short and simple, but that potentially has quite a good visibility and is causing somebody a pain. So be it a process in change of details, for example, is normally a straightforward one, or I think tankering waste is the one that Doug used. So if you have a simple process, to get this sort of thing off the ground, to have us in and get it all identified, get expectations set and goals set with success criteria, and have it all built out, tested and delivered into your POC result, if it were, you're looking about between 15 and 20k depending on the process, and then onwards costs from there. It's just a case of your licensing costs. So how big do you want to go to start with? This stuff starts out in terms of licensing from around that 20k mark, but that's an annual cost, and then it goes right up to the multiple millions for like the CBAs and the ANZs of the world, and these people who are automating like 20% of their overall workload that come into the business. So you can start as small as you want, and it's relatively cheap, but obviously as you scale, economies of scale come in, so you'll find your work actually gets cheaper to complete.
Does anybody want
Does
to
that answer that one for you, Todd?
I'm happy with that.
Yeah. I think the other thing I'll mention is what Doug said around the maintenance piece. It's just like a human. As long as your bot is built first in a robust manner, if your system changes, if it's something you'd have to retrain a human on how to do, then you're going to have to retrain the bot. But if it's something where a human would just say, oh, that button's moved from there to there, then if your bot's been built correctly by reputable people, then that's not going to cause you any issues. But maintenance is quite a key point.
Great.
Going back to your point before, Todd, just about starting, Matt, sorry. I mean, we have thousands of customers globally, but what we see consistently is most customers might just start with one or two processes, and some small customers, they may just stop there. It could be one particular bottleneck in their business that's impacting teams in a particular department, and that one process can alleviate a lot of sort of non-necessary work that really improves their productivity. And then that goes right through to the large end of town companies like BHP that are looking to automate half of 3,000 people in business services, and they've got thousands of bots running, but they've got that maturity model and that scale. But that takes time to get to that point. But we always typically see people start just one or two processes, keep it very, very simple, low cost, and feel it out in the organization.
Yeah, and just to finish off this, that cost, that 15 to 20k, you normally find a use case. If you can find 0.3 of FTE saving, you clear that figure anyway. You're normally looking at sort of like 60 to 70k in returns, and it's not like any other software platform where it's hard to substantiate benefits. RPA is easy to substantiate because you get real world impact. Thanks, Todd.
Thank you. I've got it. Oh, sorry, Doug, did you want to add anything, or you're happy?
No, that's good. I think that's exactly our experience, and I think proof of concept is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
It's inexpensive and it builds confidence within the business as well.
Yep. Cool. I actually have another question here for you, Doug, which is around, firstly, thanking you for your excellent presentation, and then it was around variation. They've got processes which have variation in it that then create errors when people are handling it, and as a result the downstream cost is where they think they may get the benefit from. Can you comment on that? Is that something that you're seeing a benefit for RPA? Does it work?
So I'm not sure if I got the question exactly right, but I'll start talking and tell me if I need to vary something. Okay, so in terms of some of the processes, I think we understand from our perspective that some do drop out. So we'll get a percentage that need to be processed manually, or something needs to be fixed on them, and then they get put back in the process and redone. So I guess that's one thing. And I guess the other point is in terms of variations, if we're talking about the process itself, I think that's where the approach around agile development comes in, that we're open and receptive to those changes, particularly feedback from the business, and that we integrate that back in. And again, I think that from the human perspective builds confidence in the technology, because people actually see their input influencing the outcomes in a positive way in terms of change. So now I'm not sure if those two things have any help in terms of answering that question. If I've got it right or not, I'm not sure.
I'll just build on Doug's response a little bit as well there. So there's a golden rule in RPA, which is the 80-20 rule. 80% of your process will normally flow down one route, and that will normally be the stable route. If you think that route will take 3 days to automate, for example, and then the other 20% are your exceptions, which will go off all weird and wonderful routes due to different criteria, so data not being correct and what have you. That other 20% may take you 3 weeks, it may take you a month to automate, so you could spend 3 days automating 80%, move on to another process and do another 80%, or you could spend all that time trying to get 100% of the process done, which isn't something we'd recommend. And what I will also say is that happy path, while humans do it, even that happy path will incur errors. So you're going to get manual errors. Humans are shown to be, I can't remember what the stat is, but there's something like they get 15% wrong, guaranteed, regardless of what the task is. Whereas with a robot, it'll do it 100% right all of the time. So whatever that robot needs to do for that 80%, it will do it 100% right. So you have none of that downstream error handling to deal with.
Cool.
Can I just add to that, Todd? I think we need to focus on the 80 or the 90% that gets through without any intervention, as opposed to the 10% that may not, because you're getting all that benefit. And I think we just accept in terms of our processes that, look, some of them will drop out for manual processing. That's just how it is sometimes, but we're getting a lot of benefit for the other stuff that doesn't drop out.
Cool. I've got one final very quick question, because we're about to run out end of time, and that was your biggest obstacle is for this person is they've got a bunch of projects on. There's the challenge with the capacity to actually do another project, but they've got interest in doing it. Do you have any advice on that, Doug?
Look, I'm a sort of simple bloke, so I think pick processes that are easy and high impact, high volume, and particularly from our perspective, have the potential to improve our customer experience. If I can tick all those boxes, then I'll prioritise those projects. That's the way that I see it, in simple terms. I mean, we're getting that now. People are queuing up for this, so we need to. We have that sort of broad approach to rationalising which ones we do first.
It's brilliant, and that's perfect timing. It's 10 o'clock, so with that, we'll close the event and wish everybody a very safe and happy day. Hopefully not too many of you are locked away in the COVID world, so life will be good. We will stay connected. We'll send some info out. So if you do have further questions, or you want to catch up and find out if it's relevant for your organisation, Matt and the team will reach out to just connect with you, and feel free to engage and get some assistance. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you all.